Today, we're going to take a look at porting an XNALara model to Source Filmmaker using Blender. To begin, download the specific model you want. I'm going to use this Tsuyu model. Some XNALara models have a sort of protection on them, and to fix that, you must first drag your files into XNALara's data folder, open XNALara, click File, Add Models, and choose your model. Now click Modify, and then Save Generic _ item. Leave everything the same and click OK, and then choose where you want to save it, and again click OK. Move all your files to one folder, textures included. In this folder, create a folder called Export. It will be useful later. Open Blender and delete the default cube. Click File, User Preferences, Add-ons, and click Install Add-on from File, and install the 3 add-ons I'll link in the description: Blend for Web, XPS to Blender, and Blender Source Tools. Now, click File, Import, and choose XNALara. Navigate to the folder that you saved your model to earlier and import it. Now that you have your model, you want to inspect it for any hidden objects you didn't see in XNA, in this case her helmet. I also noticed she has 2 hair objects, which I can only assume is due to the person who ported the model to XNA in the first place. I'm going to delete one of them, but this may be different depending on what model you're using. Use your own judgment. Now we're going to merge all the separate objects into one. Select every body part and then Ctrl J to join. Now we're going to work on materials. Start by hiding the bones by selecting them and pressing H. I'm also going to go into material mode so that we can see the materials. Now press Tab to enter edit mode. Here we can see all of the different vertices and what they're connected to. This model is helpful in the sense that we don't have to merge any materials as they're all separate. So all we have to do is rename them. By looking at the previews, I can rename the hair, body, head, and goggles. I use mat _ material name because it means that later on I can identify them easier. Now press A to deselect all, because now we're going to figure out what the last 2 materials are. I know that one is the eyes and one is the eyeshadow. Press A until everything is deselected, and by selecting one of the materials and clicking select, we can see what faces are assigned to that material. That material is the eyeshadow, and we'll just check. Yep, the other one is the eyes, and we'll rename them accordingly. Now, before we export, I'm going to share a little trick I learned from Sundown, which is anime shading on faces. If your model isn't supposed to be in an anime style, you won't need to bother with this. What we're going to do is edit the normals to the point where light is diffused across them differently, making a slightly more cartoony look. We're going to select just the face by hovering our cursor over it and pressing L. This selects all of the connected vertices. Go to your Blend for Web tab, and I'm just going to show the normal so that you can see what you're doing. We're going to set the mode to offset and change the Z to 0.2. Now we're going to click Add a couple of times, snap the cursor to selected, and click Align to 3D Cursor. Lower the factor to somewhere around 0.15 and then add a couple more times. Now switching it on and off shows you how it's affecting the look of the model, much more cartoony and smooth. Now we can scale the model. I happen to know how much to scale this because I brought in a TF2 Scout model and checked the scale relative to that. I'm going to press Alt H so it will show the bones, select all, press S, and then 44. In general, it's going to be around 43 to 46, so you can experiment with that. Now we're almost ready to export. I'm going to rename the model to Froppy, select the body, and press Ctrl A to apply location, rotation, and scale. Do the same for the armature. Now go into pose mode, select the entire armature by pressing A, and then press I and set a keyframe for Lockrot scale. Now we go into the scene panel, and here's where we choose our export settings. Change the export path to the export folder you created earlier, and the format to SMD. Now click Export and then Scene Export. If a warning comes up, just ignore it. Now go into your export folder and move the armature action.smd from the anims folder to the main folder. Create a new text document, and I'm going to name it froppy.qc. Now I will open it and to begin writing my QC file. Begin with the $, model name, and then I'm going to use quotation shadysfm /froppy/froppy.mdl. What this means is that in your Source Filmmaker models folder, your model will be inside the Froppy folder inside your Shady SFM folder. You can change these folder names to whatever you want or even add or remove them. I just use this format because it keeps my stuff organized. Now, add a $CD materials models /shady SFM /Froppy . This means that inside the materials folder, there's a models folder, and in that folder, a Shady SFM one, and in that one, a Froppy one. Now add a $model rero Froppy.smd. The rero is simply how Source Filmmaker will name and recognize the model, and the Froppy.smd is the actual name of your exported model itself. Now add a $sequence ref Froppy.smd loop fps30 act_idle1. I'm not entirely sure what this does, but without it my models don't load correctly, so I do it anyway. Now add a $surface prop metal. This isn't incredibly important, but I like to add it anyway. Then finally a mostly opaque, telling Source Filmmaker, as the name suggests, that this is a mostly opaque model. Now open Crowbar, I'll put a link in the description, make sure you're on the Compile tab and choose your QC file. Compile the model and then realize you misspelled model name and go back and fix it. Open the Source Filmmaker SDK and then the model viewer. Now click File, Load Model, and navigate to where you said your model would be located. In this case, it's Models, Shady SFM, Froppy. Now drag your models from Crowbar's output to this folder. Open the model and check that it loads. Now to add the materials. Copy your texture files to the materials folder you specified in your QC. You might have to create it yourself. Open these in VTF Edit, there will be a link in the description. Check that in the options, Auto Create VMT is checked. Save all of these as .vtfs, with the name of the material you want them to be assigned to. So for example, the body texture I'm saving as matte body. This also auto-generates a matte body.vmt. Now open all of the resulting .vmt files and change the light warp generic into vertex lit generic for all of them. Now, this is specific to this model in particular, but I'm going to duplicate the matte_eyes and rename it to matte_eyeshadow. Now I'm going to add in a $translucent1 to it. After this, you can open the model in the model viewer, and if everything looks alright, go ahead and load it up into Source Filmmaker. If you see the model as you expected to, then you succeeded importing an XNALara model into Source Filmmaker.